Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. In today's episode, we will take a look at some functions. So we have already used some in the previous videos, but in today's video, I will just go over the most used character, numeric, and data and timestamp functions. And of course, there are many. And I'll not go over all of them because that would be very boring. And also, so I would only go through the functions that I find useful and that I use in my work on daily basis. And this is what I will basically show you. Of course, there are many more. And here is where we go into the area where there are significant differences between different database management systems. So basically, Oracle will have its own functions, Postgres and DB2, MySQL, and so on will have probably similar functions. They will definitely have, as I will show you today, pretty basic functions. They will definitely have their own variations. There's a good chance that they are named and they are used the same way, but you should always basically double check that in the documentation. So first, let's take a look at character functions. Before we start using some functions, let's take a short look at how we can work with text in general. So basically, or not only with text, but how we can select data. So this query you have run numerous times over the course of this tutorial. So basically, what you can do is you can also, instead of selecting columns, right? So you can select name, surname, but you can also select text. So basically what you can do is you can say my name is, and then name, or let's make it here, and here let's select my surname is, and then surname. You can do something like this. So basically it puts in every row that you have selected the value that you have right here. And you can generate some text with this, right? So basically, instead of selecting values from the columns, we are just selecting some constants, right? So here every row will have this value. This is like similar, we have sort of touched on this concept when we worked with case when. Okay, so first thing I'd like to show you is how we can concatenate, right? Because currently we have all of this in different columns. Therefore, let's try to concatenate this. And you can do this in two ways. First way is this. And then let's concatenate it. Here, let's say dot my surname is, and here instead of this. So basically, I'm using this double pipe in order to get the concatenation functionality. So if I run this now, instead of having this in separate columns, I have this in one row. Basically here, now you can make an alias of this column, no problem. Let's say sentence, right? So here now you have one column where the number of rows is the number of rows in the people table. And here you have like nice sentence. You can use that to generate some text based on the values in the columns. You have option number 2 in order to concatenate. And this is my least favorite, or I use it not as often as the first one, just because it's less flexible. Basically what you can do is you can use a concat function, right? So you would say select concat and then name, surname from people, and you run it, you have your results, right? But the problem is that if I wanted to concatenate something here more, I get an invalid a number of arguments because this takes only 2. So if I want to concatenate something further, I need to take this part and do it like this. So basically I have to have concat, concat, and concat, and concat, and so on and so forth. Therefore, I prefer this way. Now, most DBMSs will have a left and right functions. So basically to select the leftmost number of characters or the rightmost. However, in Oracle, we don't have that. There is a substring function, so substr, and I'll now show you how basically we can do it. So what I would do in for example, in DB2, right? So the DBMS from IBM. If I wanted to select first 3 letters of a name, I would just do select left 3 or name 3 from people, and this would work. On Oracle, it fails. So on Oracle, we need to do something following. So we need to use substr, and now instead of 1 argument here, we have 2, because we have the starting position, and here it starts from 1. It's very not software engineering like. And then you have, so first argument is the starting position. So it's the first position. So here we start counting from 1 once again. And here is the length that we want to get. So basically if I run it, I get 3 first letters of a name. In order to verify that, I will select the name also here. And we can see that we have the first 3 letters, So now let's say that we wanted to select the 2 rightmost characters. What I would do for example, in DB2, so this is the DBMS from IBM, I would just do this. Here I get an error, so I need to do it different. Basically, what you need to do on Oracle is you need to use the substring function, and then this gets slightly more complex, because if you want to get the last 2, you need to start counting from -2, so this is the second from the right hand side, and then you need to get 2, right? And here, let's also select the name once again. So basically, currently what it did is, by us specifying -2, it went, okay, -1, -2, and from this point on, 2 characters. So if I did -3, 2, what it would do is it would give us -1, -2, -3, and then 2, DA, right? So for Adam, once again here, -1, -2, -3, and then OH, and so on and so on forth. So basically this is how it works. I find it slightly more complex than others, but whatever. It is relatively simple once you know it. Next function I would like to show you is length function. So basically a length function allows us to, well, select a length of something from people. And here, indeed, this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters. Of course, what you can do is you can do that and select length of not your constant, but you can select a length of a name, of a surname. Doesn't really matter. You can select a length of a surname concatenated with some white spaces, and this will work. So this is a very simple function, but useful. Now, next functions, which are, I find also useful, especially when writing some applications, using some types of codes, when you don't really want to care if this is lowercase or uppercase. Therefore, I think you already know what's coming. These are the lower, upper functions coming. So I think they are self-explanatory. We have lower name, we get the name, we get the name in lowercase letters, upper name, we get the name in uppercase letters, and here you can see that no other changes have been made. Next function, slightly more advanced, basically a replace function. So what it does, right? Let's say that we wanted to replace every A with double A, right? For some weird reason, I don't know why. So let's say A here. So let's say name. We'll be replacing in the name column single A with double A. So this is what we want to replace. This is what we are replacing with. And now we say from people once again. Oops, I did a small mistake. And we can see that I will select the name here once again. That every occurrence of the single A has been replaced with double A. Let's say now, just to apply what we have learned, that we would like to replace single A with double A, but only if it's the first letter. So essentially only here in the Adam only would like to multiply this part, right? So you would like to, yeah, essentially you would like to turn this A into double A. So let's try to do it. So first off, how I like to start is I just select, name from people, and now I sort of think what I try to do. So first off, we need to get the first letter, right? So this we all know how to do. We use the substring function. We select we start counting from the first character. We take 1. So here we have the first character. Here, if it's an A, we want to replace it with a double A. So now we have it. But now we only have here the first letters. Therefore, what we still need to do is we need to concatenate this with a substring, substr, of a name. And now we need to start counting from the second one. And here, if we don't specify the third argument, it will select it to the end of the values of the value here. So basically it will select the rest of the string from the second one. And now we can see that here we have multiplied the A 2 times and everything else is unchanged. I can select the name here, just that we verify this one. Okay, so this has been a quick, I would say, test or a quick show how you can combine these functions together, right? So combine these functionalities that we have learned. I don't know, a common use case would be you selecting, let's say, the first 3 letters of a name and then concatenate it, right, with, let's say, a dot, and then selecting surname, I don't know, maybe 5 letters, and then concatenating this with at abcd.com, right, and here from people, I don't know, to create substr, here we are missing concatenation. Okay, so like to create, I don't know, email addresses of people or something like this. So basically there's one more function that I would like to show you, and this is a trim function. So sometimes it happens that in the database we have values which have white spaces at the beginning or at the end, and you don't want it, right? So here if I say ABCD with a white space at the beginning and I select this from people, what I will get is I will get this value without a white space. It removes it from the beginning and from the end. Here you can see that if you basically copy this, that there is no white space here at the end. But the trim function is a little bit more powerful. So what you can do with it is also you can remove any other characters, right? So let's say that here we have a leading A that you'd like to remove. What you can say is you can say A from ABCD, and now it will remove an A. But what it will not do, so it doesn't work as a replace, right? So it will not remove B. It would only remove B if somewhere here we had a B at the beginning, right? So let's maybe take a column, right? So here if we had, let's say, try to remove, I don't know, a J, right? So here, every name with a J has lost the first letter. And this is how you can use the trim function. So you can, by default, what is specified here, implicit, is leading. But what you can also do is you can specify trailing. And here, what it will do is it would remove a J if our name had one at the end. Let's currently cast this to lower. This will be slightly easier. So let's, for example, try to remove, I don't know, an N from the end, right? And now we can see that John, Clayton, and so on and so forth have lost the last letter of their name. And this is basically how a trim function works. It is a powerful function that you can easily use if you have some redundant data and you want to remove them in a reliable way, right? So if you want to remove only if the certain word, for example, because you can also remove whole words, come at the very beginning. Okay, so that would be it. I think for the character functions that I use on daily basis, that would be it. Let's now move to numeric functions, and this will be a little bit more interesting. So first, and I think the most number function that I use, of course, excluding maybe like the mathematical operations, is a round function. So basically what you do is you select round, and here you say, I don't know, 5.23, and then you say 1 from people, and you execute it, and you have it rounded to the first digit after a comma. If I say 2 here, this will remain unchanged. If you say 5 here and you send 1, this will be 5.3. In other words, this is mathematically correct. And a simple trick in Oracle to avoid selecting from your big table, you can just say select from dual. So in Oracle, a dual is just like a dummy table that you can use that has one column and one value as one row. So basically you can do it to do things like this. Okay, so we'll be selecting from dual. So this is a round function in essence. Maybe a small trick that you can do it is you can round it not only to the points after a decimal point, but also to the points before. So you can, in other words, you can also say -1 and you'll get a 10, right? So this is a round function. An alternative, or not an alternative, function that does something a little bit different is a trunc function. What a trunc function does is it just truncates the value. So as you can see, it's no longer 5.3 as it was up here, but it's 5.2. So it just cuts off the value right here. Of course, you can also have pretty standard mathematical operations. This is, I think, pretty understandable, pretty nice. You can also round the results if you want to, let's say to 2. Right, to have a nice result, to multiply it, and so on and so forth, right? So you basically can apply it also on the mathematical expressions, no problem. So next function that I'd like to show you is a function which returns as a rest from a division. So basically a modulo. So here you say, I don't know, 4, you should say 3 from dual, and you'll get 1 because 1 is a rest of dividing 4 by 3. Very simple functions or function. By the way, I hope that you know that here the constant values that we are using can be replaced, no problem, by a column name, right? So if you have some column name values, these can be easily applied over the column names. And basically, a last numeric function, something that's not used maybe very often, is a power function. So this will return 8, so essentially 2 to the power of 3. And now let's get to, I think, the most complex topic, but that's true for all the programming languages, I think. Let's get to our date functions. So date functions and timestamp functions. I think the most used by me is a current date. It's not a function per se, but it's an expression, I think. So essentially what it does, it returns you the current date. You have to believe me that it is the 12th of June at the time I'm recording this. The same way you can retrieve current timestamp. So here you can see also the time zone where I'm currently in. So, but this is a whole timestamp or a whole date. What if we just wanted, I don't know, a month? Therefore, what comes to use is an extract function. So what you say is you say extract and then you say month from current timestamp, and then you execute it and you have the month, right? So this is the 6th month. Well, works exactly the same if let's say extract and then let's say year from current date. right? Here you have the current year. So what if you want to convert a character expression to a date? So basically what you need to do, because for example, you need to insert this date into a column, or you want to query by this date. You say toDate, and then you input the date in, I don't know, your favorite format. Let's say that it's the 1st of January 2022. And now after a comma, you need to specify a format that this date has, right? So basically we have 2 digits for a date, then 3 for a month, so 3 characters for a month, and then 4 digits for a year, right? And now I need to do from dual only. And now we have a valid date in Oracle. So here, this is how you basically combine it to a date. What you need to somehow learn, or you can also easily Google that on the Oracle documentation, is the following formats. And I think they are much more useful when we actually will test to char, right? So basically that's the opposite. If we want to display a date in a nice format, let's use the current date. If you want to display the date in a nice format, what you can do is now here you specify the date, and now here you specify sort of a mask of this date, I think it's called. So basically how it should be displayed. So you can, what you can do, for example, right, is you can say a month that you want to here have a month, then have, oh no, not the comma, then let's say have a date, and then let's have a year, right? 2 for date. What it will give us is it will give us a June 12th, 2022, right? So what we also can do, for example, is if you want to suppress the blanks here, you have to begin it with FM month, right? So if I begin it with FM month instead of just month, I don't have so many blanks here. What you can change here is you can have the year spelled out, for example, and basically there are many options that you can have. You can change it to an MM. You can, you can, I believe, can add a day of the week, right? So you can just say, I don't know, week or a week of the year, right? So this is the 24th week of the year. Let's remove this. You can also have a week of the month. So basically a week of the month, you can see that it's the 2nd week of the month. So basically many different things you can do here. You need to basically, and that's what I also always do, I just look it up in the Oracle documentation or any other DBMS documentation where I want to use it, and it just so basically you have to just check it every time you want to use it. What you can also do with dates is you can round them. So basically there's also a round function applied over, let's say, current date, and here you can select what it should be rounded to, let's say, to months, right? And this will basically round the date to the 1st of the month. I believe we can also say y for a year here, and basically it will round it to the 1st of the year. So if you want to add days to a date in Oracle, right? So let's select current date once again. From dual, you can see the 12th of June. If I say +2, we'll get the 14th of June. So this is super simple. But what if you want to add years? There is a generic way in Oracle to do that. What you can do is you can select current date plus interval, or plus interval 2. I think 2 has to come in single quotation marks, and you say day, right? And it will add to day. You can say to month. You can say to year. And this just works. Basically a very simple concept. So interval, then the value in single quotation marks, and then the year, month, day, so the time period you want to add. So what if you want to select a date from a timestamp? Well, let's select the timestamp first. Select current timestamp from people. And to select the date, or maybe let's say from dual, to select a date from it, you just say cast and then current timestamp as date. And it returns as the current date. And the cast function has many more uses because a cast function, and there is a cast function I believe in every DBMS, allows you to change the data type. So here we changed it from timestamp to date, but it also allows you to change it from a number or an integer to a character value. It allows you to change it from a character value back to a number or to an integer. So basically, a cast function is also very useful. And sometimes when you want to, for example, join two tables together and they have different data types, you can use cast function, but here you have to beware. This makes the performance of the query most likely very bad. This is why you generally want to avoid that. You want to filter or you want to cast only whole columns, and then you should be fine. Okay, but that would be it. I think we have covered like 90% of uses of functions in DBMS. Of course, you will not remember this. This is why I just wanted to give you a short overview, basically what is there, what you can expect. And now you should know after this video that if you encounter this type of a challenge that you think can be solved with the functions that we have learned here today, you will then look up this function in the documentation of the DBMS that you are using, and you will be able to solve this problem very easy. Okay, but today I would like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.